Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a company ran its own country? What if it had its own army, its own navy, and could literally declare war? This isn't a sci-fi movie plot. This was the reality of the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC, the most powerful corporation in history. Get ready, because we were about to dive into the incredible story of how a trading company became a global empire. Back in the late 1500s, Europe was going crazy for spices. Nutmeg, cloves, and pepper were worth more than gold. But getting them was a nightmare. The journey to the Spice Islands in modern-day Indonesia was long, dangerous, and controlled by the Portuguese. Dutch merchants were trying to get a piece of the action, but they were all competing against each other, driving up prices and cutting into their own profits. So, in 1602, the Dutch government had a brilliant and frankly terrifying idea. They said, "Hey, all you competing merchants, why don't you team up?" They forced all the rival companies to merge into one giant megacorporation, the Verenigde Oostenrijksche Company, or VOC, and they gave it powers that no company has had before or since. The VOC was granted a 21-year monopoly on all Dutch trade east of the Cape of Good Hope and west of the Strait of Magellan. Basically, if you wanted to trade in Asia as a Dutchman, you had to go through them. But here's the kicker. The government also gave the VOC the right to build forts, sign treaties with local rulers, mint its own coins, and get this wage war. It was a company with the powers of a state. It wasn't just a business. It was a sovereign entity operating on the other side of the world. And what did the VOC do with these powers? It built a massive empire. Its ships, packed with soldiers and cannons, sailed to Asia. They didn't just want to trade, they wanted to dominate. They kicked the Portuguese out of their strongholds and set up their own. The headquarters was established in a city they called Batavia, which we know today as Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. From Batavia, the VOC spread its tentacles across the region.
Oh yeah.
Their main goal was to control the spice trade completely.
Oh yeah.
And they were ruthless. Take the Banda Islands, for example, the only place in the world where nutmeg grew. The Bandanese people wanted to trade with everyone, including the English. The VOC couldn't have that. So, in 1621, under the command of Jan Pieterszoon Cohen, the company committed a horrific massacre. They systematically depopulated the islands, killing or enslaving almost the entire population, and then brought in their own people to run the nutmeg plantations. It was a brutal, calculated move to secure a monopoly, and it shows the dark side of their quest for profit. But the VOC wasn't just about spices and violence. It was also an incredible logistical machine. Imagine coordinating thousands of ships and hundreds of thousands of employees across continents without email or phones. They used a complex system of letters, carried by ships that could take a year to make a round trip. Their bookkeeping was revolutionary. And many consider the VOC to be the world's first publicly traded company, with shares that people could buy and sell in Amsterdam. It was the birth of the modern stock market. The VOC's influence was everywhere. Established a settlement at the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, which was meant to be a simple resupply station for their ships. This small outpost eventually grew and laid the foundation for the modern nation of South Africa. They traded with Japan when almost no other Europeans were allowed in. Operating from a tiny artificial island called Dajima, they mapped coastlines, discovered new lands like parts of Australia and New Zealand, and brought countless new goods back to Europe. They weren't just traders, they were explorers, conquerors, and administrators. For nearly 200 years, the VOC was an unstoppable force. At its peak, it was worth more than the modern-day value of Apple, Google, and Amazon combined. It had almost 5,000 ships, a private army of 10,000 soldiers, and employed tens of thousands of people. It was a global titan. So, what happened? How did this megacorporation fall? Like many empires, it rotted from the inside. Corruption became rampant. Employees stationed thousands of miles from home started running their own illegal side businesses, stealing from the company. The VOC's initials VOC were jokingly said to stand for Vergaan onder Corruptie, which means perished by corruption. Competition also grew. The British East India Company, while never as large as the VOC in its prime, became a major rival. Wars in Europe, especially with England, drained the company's resources. The VOC's huge bureaucratic structure made it slow to adapt to changing market conditions. The demand for spices eventually leveled off, and the company failed to diversify effectively. By the late 18th century, the VOC was drowning in debt. The final blow came when France invaded the Netherlands in 1795. The new government, under French influence, decided it was time to end the company's reign. In 1799, the Dutch East India Company was officially dissolved. Its charter expired, and all its debts and territories were taken over by the Dutch government. The world's first and greatest multinational corporation was no more. The legacy of the VOC is complex and controversial. On one hand, it was a marvel of innovation, finance, and logistics that paved the way for modern global capitalism. It connected the world in ways no one had ever imagined, and its impact on art, culture, and cuisine in the Netherlands is still visible today. On the other hand, its history is soaked in blood. The wealth it generated was built on exploitation, brutal colonial violence, and the subjugation of entire peoples. It represents the darkest aspects of colonialism, where profit was pursued at any human cost. The story of the Dutch East India Company is a powerful reminder of what can happen when corporate power goes unchecked. It was a company that acted like a state, a business that became an empire, and a symbol of both human ingenuity and human cruelty. It's a chapter of history that we should never forget. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history.
Let me know in the comments what you think about the VOC's incredible rise and fall.
See you in the next video.